People love saying weeds are free food and free medicine. That is exactly how people get into trouble. A weed only becomes useful after 5 checks: what it is, where it grows, which part you use, how it is prepared, and whether it is right for the person using it. Miss one and the plant may not be food at all. It may just be a weed, or worse, a mistake. Before any wild plant becomes food, tea, or a traditional home use, it needs correct identification, a clean location, and restraint. If it grew in a sprayed yard, beside a road, near pet waste, or in soil you do not trust, leave it there. Today, we are looking at 9 common yard plants people step on, pull out, or mow down without thinking. One needs heat. One is 3 ingredients under one name. One soft, fuzzy leaf needs a filter. And the final plant is not just a weed at all. It is a crop memory hiding in disturbed soil. The first one may already be under your shoe. Plantain is not the banana-like fruit. This is the low yard plant with tough leaves pressed close to the ground. You've probably stepped on it this week without knowing its name. Look for leaves with strong veins running from the base toward the tip, like raised cords. It likes compacted soil, footpaths, sidewalk edges, and places where grass struggles, but people keep walking. That is part of why older households noticed it. Plantain was not dramatic, it was available. The fresh leaf had a tradition of being crushed and used externally for minor skin irritation. That does not mean it replaces medical care. Do not use it for deep wounds, spreading redness, fever, or anything that looks infected. Serious symptoms need real care. But plantain teaches something important right away. Older plant knowledge was not always about rare herbs from faraway places. Sometimes it was a plain leaf underfoot, used in a very specific way. Fresh leaf, minor irritation, external use, clean place, correct plant. That's a much smarter sentence than "this weed heals everything." The young leaves have also been used as food in some traditions, but the same rules apply. Tender leaves are not tough old leaves, a clean path is not a sprayed curb, and almost identified is not identified. Plantain is common. The careful use of it is not. Violet flower in vinegar is one thing. A mystery purple flower from a treated lawn is another. That difference matters. Do not assume every purple flower in the grass is edible. Do not gather from sprayed lawns. Do not treat a pretty plant as safe just because it looks gentle. But when properly identified, wild violet shows how modern yards made small seasonal foods invisible. People stopped asking what the flower was. They only asked whether it belonged in a lawn. Older kitchens asked a better question: can this become something useful? Chickweed does not stand up and announce itself. It spreads low, soft, and green, often in damp shade or cool corners of the yard. The leaves are small, the flowers are tiny and white, like little stars if you look closely. Its timing is the reason it matters. Chickweed often appears when the garden still looks half asleep, before the big vegetables arrive, before the soil feels fully awake. This little green mat may already be there. That's why older food traditions paid attention to plants like this. Early greens mattered. They showed up when stored food was getting boring and fresh garden food had not yet arrived. Young chickweed has been used as a mild spring green. It also has older topical and tea traditions attached to it, but that should be treated as context, not proof of medical effect. Put chickweed in a small spring salad and you're in one conversation. Turn it into a daily tea habit and you're at another. This is where people online often get sloppy. They hear one old use, then stretch it into 10 modern claims. Do not do that. With chickweed, the better lesson is simple. Season matters. Young plants are different from mature ones. Food use is different from health claims, and even a gentle-looking green still needs correct identification and clean ground. Chickweed is not loud. It's early. That was its value. Purslane looks different from most lawn weeds. It grows low and fleshy, with reddish stems and small rounded leaves. After summer heat or rain, it can spread across bare soil, garden beds, driveway edges, and places where other greens look tired. Break a clean stem and you'll notice the texture right away. It's juicy, crisp, almost like the plant is holding water for later. Purslane is a real food plant in several culinary traditions. It's also often talked about because of its unusual omega-3 content for a land vegetable, especially in the form of ALA. That fact is interesting, but here is where the internet usually ruins it. Purslane is not fish oil. It's not a supplement replacement. It's not a complete nutrition plan growing across your driveway. It is a food plant with a useful nutrient profile, and that's already enough. The serving size matters. The form of omega-3 matters. The rest of your diet matters. Once you say those things out loud, the story becomes more honest and more useful. Purslane can be eaten as a fresh green when correctly identified and gathered from clean soil, but it also deserves caution, especially for people who need to watch oxalates, such as those with kidney stone history or kidney disease. The plant may be valuable. That does not mean you eat handfuls from anywhere it grows. Purslane is a perfect example of the rule for this whole episode. Keep the curiosity, cut the hype.
This is the point where the video needs to slow down for a second, but not to recap, to correct something. Free does not mean safe. Common does not mean harmless. Traditional does not mean proven, and edible does not mean right for every person. A plant can be useful and still be wrong if it grew in bad soil. It can have a food tradition and still be a bad idea in large amounts. It can be used one way and become risky another way. That is why the 5 checks matter: identity, location, part, preparation, and person. Most mistakes happen when someone learns the plant name and skips the rest. The next plant shows that perfectly because the first thing people notice is the taste.
And taste can make people overconfident. Wood sorrel is easy to remember once you taste it. It looks a little like a small shamrock with 3 heart-shaped leaflets. It often has small yellow flowers, and the flavor is bright, sour, and lemony. That sour taste makes people excited. It should also make them careful. Wood sorrel contains oxalic acid. That does not mean a tiny taste or a small garnish is automatically a problem for everyone, but it does mean this plant belongs in the category of occasional sour greens, not large daily handfuls. For people with kidney stone history or kidney disease, oxalate-rich plants deserve extra caution. This is also not a plant to turn into a casual game for children. A child should not learn that sour weed is fun to eat before learning identification, location, and limits. Wood sorrel is not dangerous because it is sour. The danger is half knowledge, knowing the taste before knowing the boundary. That is why this plant belongs in the middle of the episode. It reminds us that excitement is not the same as judgment. A little sour leaf can teach a big lesson.
Dandelion is so familiar that people stop seeing it. Yellow flower in the grass, jagged leaves, a deep root that refuses to let go. But the biggest mistake with dandelion is treating it like one simple plant. It is not. The leaf, the flower, and the root belong to different conversations. The young leaves have been used as bitter greens. The flowers have their own kitchen uses, mostly for color, season, and gentle flavor. The root belongs to a different preparation entirely, often dried and roasted into a dark, bitter drink. That is why dandelion is one of the best plants for understanding this channel. The plant name is not enough. If someone says dandelion is useful, the next question should be which part? Leaf, flower, root, fresh, cooked, dried, roasted, food, drink, traditional use, research claim. Those are not small details. Those are the story. Dandelion is often discussed online in connection with liver support or blood sugar research. Be careful with that. A bitter root tradition is not a diabetes treatment. A plant compound studied in one context is not a medical plan. If you take medication, especially for blood sugar, or if you have a diagnosed condition, do not turn dandelion into a routine health habit without qualified guidance. The useful version of dandelion is specific. A young leaf is not a roasted root. A flower is not a supplement. A tradition is not a prescription. Once you understand that, dandelion stops being a generic weed and becomes a plant with parts, timing, and rules.
Now we get to the plant from the opening, the one people fear for a good reason. Stinging nettle does not ask politely. The fine hairs on its stems and leaves can sting bare skin, and anyone who's brushed against it remembers the lesson. So the first tool is not a salad bowl, it's a glove. But nettle is also one of the clearest examples of how preparation changes a plant. Raw contact is one thing, cooked leaves are another. Heat neutralizes the sting. That one detail changes everything about how older food traditions approached nettle. A careful harvest, a pot of hot water, leaves darkening into cooked greens. The plant is no longer the same experience. That does not mean nettle becomes a miracle herb. It means the preparation matters. Nettle is sometimes discussed in connection with allergies, joints, circulation, and prostate health, but those are different conversations, and they should not be turned into treatment claims here. The leaf and the root are not interchangeable. Cooked greens are not the same as concentrated supplements. There are also people who should be careful. Nettle might matter for those on blood thinners because of vitamin K concerns, and routine use may not be right for people taking medication or managing diagnosed conditions. So keep the real lesson. Nettle is not safe because it's natural. It is useful only when handled with respect. Touch it carelessly and it corrects you. Prepare it properly and the plant changes category.
Mullein looks like a plant from another century. In its first year, it forms a low rosette of thick, gray-green leaves. The leaves are soft, almost felt-like. In its second year, it can send up a tall spike of yellow flowers like a torch standing in a dry field, empty lot, or neglected corner. People remember mullein because it looks impossible to miss once you know it. It also has a long history in older respiratory traditions. That history is interesting, but it needs a clear boundary. A respiratory tradition is not a treatment for bronchitis, tuberculosis, infection, chest pain, breathing difficulty, fever, or any serious symptom. Those belong in medical care. The safer way to understand mullein is through preparation and texture. The leaves are often associated with mucilage, that slippery quality people connected with soothing preparations. Saponins are also often mentioned in discussions of its old reputation, but those claims should be verified carefully before turned into strong statements. And the practical detail matters. Dried mullein leaf tea is traditionally strained well, not casually strained, well strained. Those fine leaf hairs are not something you want irritating the throat. The cloth strainer is not decoration. It's part of the knowledge. This is why mullein works so well in this episode. It looks gentle. It feels soft. But if you skip the method, even a soft plant can become rough. The plant is memorable. The filter is the lesson. The final plant is not here because it is the rarest. It's here because it changes the category. Lamb's quarters often shows up in disturbed soil, garden beds, and edges where people have turned the ground. It can grow tall, with diamond-shaped leaves and a pale, dusty coating, especially on the underside. Many gardeners pull it quickly because it looks like competition, but lamb's quarters points to something older than lawn weeds. It points toward food crop memory. The young leaves have been used as greens. Older leaves are often better cooked than eaten casually raw, and the seeds connect the plant to a deeper food story. The line between weed and crop is not always as clean as modern people think.
This is where nutrition claims need honesty. You may hear strong comparisons between lamb's quarters and spinach or other greens. Some of those comparisons may be interesting, but they need context. Fresh weight, cooked weight, dry weight, serving size, plant stage, and preparation all change the meaning of the numbers. A shocking comparison gets clicks. A clear comparison teaches something. The stronger story is not that lamb's quarters is a magic spinach replacement. The stronger story is that this plant was not always seen as trash. It can be a green, a seed plant, and a reminder that some foods were forgotten because people stopped recognizing them. That is why it belongs at the end, not as the biggest miracle, as the widest reframe.
Sometimes a weed is not only a plant in the wrong place, sometimes it's an old food system no one taught you to notice. Now look at what these 9 plants actually taught. Plantain teaches recognition before use. Wild violet teaches that a flower can belong in the kitchen, but only when you know what it is. Chickweed teaches timing. Purslane teaches food value without supplement hype. Wood sorrel teaches taste with limits. Dandelion teaches that leaf, flower, and root are different ingredients. Nettle teaches that heat can change the risk. Mullein teaches that preparation can be as simple and as important as a cloth filter. Lamb's quarters teaches that a weed may carry the memory of a crop. That's the real pattern. Not eat weeds, not plants cure everything, not old knowledge was always right. The real pattern is decision-making. What is it? Where did it grow? Which part are you using? How is it prepared? Is it right for the person using it? Sometimes the answer is harvest. Sometimes the answer is cook it. Sometimes the answer is strain it. Sometimes the answer is use a little, not a lot. Sometimes the answer is ask a qualified professional because medication or a diagnosed condition changes the risk. And sometimes the answer is simple. Leave it alone. The next time you pull a weed, do not eat it first. Do not spray it first. Look first. Picture the field guide open on the table, a glove drying near the sink, a cloth strainer beside a cup of tea, a few lamb's quarter seeds saved in a paper envelope, and outside, one uncertain plant left standing because almost identified is not identified. That is not fear. That is the skill people forgot. If you want more episodes that separate useful old plant knowledge from modern exaggeration, subscribe to Plants They Forgot. And tell me in the comments, which of these plants have you seen near you, and which part or preparation surprised you most? Not which one you are going to use tomorrow, which one you will look at more carefully now.